this done quickly. Get whatever the warden want and get home.
You got anything? This is good, man. This is good stuff. It'll trade.
Everything trades.
Oh, fuck. To be honest, any second, keep your eyes on that door. Ah, shit, there's fucking loads of them.
Hello everyone, my name is Nick Calandra, and I'm the lead interviewer here on Gameumentary. You may remember from last year that we started up an interview series called DevView that was quickly put on hold as we started getting quite busy with documentary shoots. Well, now that everything is filmed and in production, we have time to get back to doing some more interviews for the channel. For our first interview of the year, we'll be speaking with Simon Viklund at 10 Chambers Collective about their upcoming cooperative first-person shooter, GTFO. So for our viewers that maybe haven't heard of GTFO yet, Simon, can you kind of give me a brief explanation of what the game is?
Yeah, it's a 4-player cooperative first-person shooter game, and it focuses a lot on cooperative elements and horror.
Cool. All right, so where did the idea for GTFO come from? I know a lot of you guys are previously worked on Payday and those sort of types of games, but kind of what inspired you to make this kind of shooter?
Yeah, essentially we just looked at what we had within the team in terms of experience and know-how, and we just decided that let's create some game based on these the strengths that we have. Obviously, a few of us coming from the development of the Payday games, we thought that was a good idea to do something within that sort of genre with Left 4 Dead, maybe starting it off, and we want to take that to the next level, so to speak, and really up the ante for people who already maybe are very the tight-knit crews that already play together as teams, and really present a challenge to them. So the game is sort of a love letter to that 4-player cooperative first-person shooter community.
Mm-hmm. And so what are you guys doing to kind of innovate on that kind of genre of game?
It goes through everything, like in terms of replayability, trying to make sure that the game has this toolbox of things to make it unpredictable, both in terms of the enemy spawn points and the route that you have to take through the maze. Different objectives, different environmental hazards and conditions. So there's a lot of things that we throw at the player or the players, and the challenge is to handle all of it as a team.
So maybe if, since I'm not sure how much we'll be able to see of the game, but if you could walk me through what a typical gameplay session of GTFO might be like.
That's tricky because they're not that they're bookended by this elevator ride. The story revolves around you as a group being kept inside this underground complex and forced to go down into the darkness of this derelict underground complex that's been overrun by these flesh-eating monstrous creatures, and your captors obviously don't dare to go down there, and so they send you to scavenge for something and carry out different objectives, starting up generators or collecting data or taking battery cells or whatever from different there's different objectives that they send you down there to carry out, and then you can scavenge for things that your captors might not need but that you can keep for yourself, and then upgrade your gear and weapons with that in order to hopefully be better prepared the next time you go down there. so there's tools and weapons, obviously, to fight back. But we there's a lot of thought going into giving the players, not just shooting. The shooting, it doesn't revolve. The game doesn't revolve all around shooting. We try to give the players tools to navigate through the complex, find their way, and the game isn't like it doesn't have constant action. So there's a lot of exploration, and there's stealth aspects to it, where you want to sneak past enemies rather than confront them, and then there's lots of tools that help you to better take on those situations, so to speak. But a typical game session would be the elevator ride down, and stepping off this elevator, trying to just get a sense of where you're supposed to go, what the objective is, deciding on how to try to find that objective, because the layout of the level or the map would change from game session to game session, and then you move as a team, hopefully. Otherwise, if you stray from the group, there might be bad things happening to you, and carry out this objective, pick up stuff that you might want to keep for yourself, trying to avoid enemies that can be avoided, and fighting enemies. Every once in a while there might be a situation where confrontation is unavoidable, so some alarm goes off or something that draws the attention to you, so you need to fight some enemies, and then find your way out. But there's like all these different elements are changed, the layout as I mentioned, but also the objectives and the conditions down there that forces you as a team to pick different tools and different weapons, because the conditions are different, so to speak. There's a lot of puzzle already in the loadout screen, so to speak, where you as a team try to pick with the information that you have about the expedition that you're heading out on, trying to pick tools and gear that will hopefully be useful.
So there won't actually be like any class loadouts or anything. You need to kind of figure out for yourself what gear you need to take.
Yeah, there are no classes. You become the medic in the team if you choose to bring the medic tool, so to speak. And you become the mapper of the team if you choose the mapper. And you become the guy who keeps an eye out for enemies if you bring the motion detector. Motion scanner.
Is there more gear than players? Like, so you're gonna have to make selection?
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. We wanna infuse as much angst as we can in any really aspect of the game. So yeah, there's gonna be more tools that you want to bring than there's actually slots for within the team.
Does the navigator carry the light, or does everybody get lights at least?
Well, you have to have a minimum of something. So we have this. We have flashlights for everyone, and
it's not hardcore enough.
I mean, you want to keep it. Like it would be frustrating if people feel like they're missing something that feels like it's basic. Like, you don't want to have I'm the shooter because I'm the only one in the 4-man group that has a gun.
How varied will the environments and locations be, considering that most of the game is played underground?
Well, as varied as they can be, being down in this complex, and obviously being sort of creepy. So the lighting will, for the most part, be sort of sparse. But we have these in the first gameplay trailer that we released at the Game Awards back in December, you can see these sort of organic mining tunnels. So they're kind of, I don't know, organic, I guess is a good word. Rocky surfaces and everything is uneven and stuff. But we also have these high-tech corridors because this underground facility has been used for different things like scientific research and as well as mining. And figuring out what the complex was used for when it was still operational before the monsters took over is part of the mystery, sort of within the story.
I know when we talked before, you mentioned that there's a little bit of a horror element to the game, but and I know you said that it's not really, a typical horror game or anything, like to not expect something like that. But maybe something that we didn't talk about was like, how intense are these combat experiences going to be, being in a claustrophobic, area like a cave?
Oh, extremely intense. And I think that we managed to capture that to some extent in that gameplay trailer that I mentioned. But yeah, it's when, the poop hits the fan, it really gets intense. And then you can have these periods in between where it's like super creepy and you're just walking around and not knowing what's around the next corner. So it has a different pace than say Payday, which we worked on previously, where it has these you can go in and out of stealth rather than just having stealth at the beginning, and then as in Payday, where if they detect you, then it's over and you can never go back to stealth. This GTFO can actually go in and out of stealth, and then there's this sort of exploration element to it that I think is not represented in Left 4 Dead either.
We also talked a bit about the narrative, and that this GTFO is actually a lot more narrative focused than one might expect. You might delve into that a little bit.
Yeah, we want to tell a story as well and have characters that are appealing and interesting, and to give them sort of an adventure to be on rather than just going through this grind every day. So yeah, we as soon as we thought of that, we decided that we needed a professional writer to help us out with the dialogue and everything, because the characters in the game are going to talk about more than just I need a medic bag, and I need I need ammo or stuff like that. So in order to write dialogue that feels natural, we felt that we wanted a competent writer. So we hired Adam Gascoigne to do that, and he's been working on Doom back in 2016, or the 2016 version of Doom, and he worked on The Last of Us, and he's worked on a bunch of Call of Duty games. So he's really experienced in many different aspects of game development, level design and game design and writing and so on. So he's really important to that aspect of the game. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, part of the mystery is what was the complex for when it was still operational? Where did the monsters come from? Who are you guys? How did you end up in this place? And who are your captors? And what's their agenda? So there's a lot of different question marks to explore in the story. But it's not going to have a story campaign per se, where when you get the game, you can play through it for 10-12 hours and then you're done. It's going to be told through different means, but I don't think that we are prepared to talk about exactly how that aspect of the game plays out just yet.
Mm-hmm. And will the story kind of play out? I know you mentioned that the characters are going to say more than just I need a medic bag or get me up or whatever. Is it are there cinematics that people are going to be watching, or is the story all told kind of through the gameplay?
Yeah, well, that's part of the. We want to keep everything in the game, the lull between the fights and everything, they can talk about, you know, nightmares that they have, or you know, recurring dreams, or ideas about how to escape and stuff like that. And we wanted to have an emotional impact, or we wanted to have a sort of an emotional resonance, and that's why we felt that we couldn't write that ourselves. I mean, anyone pretty much, if you know English well enough, you know, and the grammar, you can write, you know, I need a medic bag and I need ammo. So, but we want them to have, discussions about their existence and their situation and how they can change it. So, there's going to be more banter and stuff. Something that we had more of in the first Payday game, and that people, when we removed it for the sequel, actually missed a lot. So with GTFO, we're sort of going back to that original formula, which feels I'm super excited. We have this proprietary dialogue system that takes into account whether a character is missing from the server. If you're only playing like 3 or 2 people together, then of course they have to be able to carry a dialogue without the other 2 characters that aren't there. So it's super complex, and I'd say actually that's part of what makes the game hardcore, is also it's pretty hardcore of us as developers, only 9 people trying to develop a game that is as ambitious as GTFO actually is, with 4-player, a 4-player cooperative game with all these sort of unpredictable elements that we're trying to present to the players, and also having a narrative in there. It's challenging, to say the least.
Speaking of having players missing, is there any reason that somebody might want to play this game as a single-player title?
I don't think so, no. I mean, our philosophy is that with GTFO, we want to make it's going to be the pinnacle of cooperative games. So it's a game that you're going to want to play together with other human beings. And by that, I'm pretty much saying we're not going to create bots that you're going to be able to play with, because we couldn't even create bots that do what teammates are expected to do in GTFO. In many other games, bots are, they can provide firepower and they can revive the player if the player is downed or something. But that wouldn't be enough in GTFO, because you want to coordinate so much with the other players, you stand over there and I stand over there here, and you defend this door, and maybe you can close, 2 doors back, run back and close those 2 doors, so that the enemies, if the monsters come down that corridor, it's going to take a while to break through those doors. And all these things that you want to do more, more than just firing at the enemies and being, bullet sponges, or taking damage from the enemies off of you. So it's it's a game that you play with other human beings. And I mean, I can't say now that it wouldn't be impossible for us to make some sort of a game mode where you can go down into the complex alone, and we disable the ability for people to drop in, because you would play some sort of version of the game where we exclude certain puzzles and gameplay mechanics. But it would be sort of a watered down version of our own game, and I'm not sure that that's what we want to do. We're not ruling that out, but I wouldn't say that. I mean, that's not what we're making the game, really.
So you were starting to talk about some of the enemies and all that. What kind of variation can players expect in, like, maybe combat scenarios?
It's a wide range of different monsters that attack in different ways. And if you've seen the gameplay trailer that I mentioned previously, you see these tentacles or the tongues of the monsters kind of, come out and are lashing out again towards you. So we're trying to innovate there and not just have them run up, super close to you and claw or have talons or something and just do damage that way, or standing from afar and just shooting. It's something different, and monsters will be able to grab you, and there will be these stealth elements or stealth scenarios where you come into a room and the monsters are dormant and you don't want to wake them up because there's no upside to shooting the enemies. Really, you're just wasting ammo, and they're not going to give you anything. It's not like these monsters are carrying extra ammo for you in their pockets. It's just flesh-eating monsters, so you're not going to get anything from killing them, so you want to just sneak past them. But they have this scout that's walking around in the room, and you have to avoid that scout, otherwise that scout will signal the others to wake up and attack you. So yeah, we're trying to it's going to be interesting in regardless of whether it's a firefight or it's a sneaking scenario. So and special enemies, of course, as well. Like, that's part of the recipe, I guess, with these games, all the way from Left 4 Dead, where you have the tank and the smoker and these special enemies that have these very special attacks and kind of disable players if they're stray away from the group, and we have those sort of enemies as well.
That one that walks around the sleeping guys kind of sounds like the witch to me, and I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, I guess it's a little bit like that, and we're trying to think of new ways. Obviously in Payday we had the shield that you have to kind of flank, and you can't shoot it from the front, and we have the taser that can shoot these wired. There's those and tase you basically, and disable a player that way. We had the one, the bulldozer, which is a huge guy in a bomb suit that can take a lot of damage, pretty much a bullet sponge. But we're trying to innovate on that as well for GTFO, even if it has the concept of these special enemies. The special enemies in themselves are very innovative, I'd say. But I can't go into detail right now about what they're all about, but it's going to be interesting to see people playing against them and see how they react and how they solve the problems that they present.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting to me how complex it sounds like for the cooperative experience, especially the fact that you just can't run in there with bots and all that and expect them to do what a human player is going to do. So that's pretty exciting to me, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we had bots obviously in Payday. We created bots back in another company that a few of the guys from 10 Chambers were in. Back in 2005, 2006, we developed the PC versions of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter for Ubisoft, and we were in that sort of lose situation there, where we had the command rows and allowed players to actually tell their AI or bot controlled teammates where to go and cover, sit over here, take cover there, and shoot in this direction and whatnot. But the problem is that you don't cut bots the slack that you cut other players, at least not players that because you respect humans and say that, and you think automatically, like, I guess he had a reason for doing that because he got shot in the back, or he has information that I don't have. That's you don't cut bots that sort of slack. So whether you do an AI that follows your order blindly and crosses the road, the player's gonna get angry because the bot got shot down in the middle of the road. Whereas if you make the AI smart enough to determine that it can't cross the road, because there's too much shooting going on, and there are no covers in the middle of the road, then the player is going to be pissed off because the AI is not following the order. So it's a sort of a lose-lose situation. It's really difficult to create bots that people are happy with, and that they sort of, I don't know if respect is the right word, but that they sort of find really useful. unless it's they have to be overpowered somehow, and then you're kind of, as a player, I guess, you become more happy with them because they're so powerful, or something. I don't know. But we can't really, as I mentioned earlier, the bots are supposed to do more than just shoot at the enemies and revive you. So it's, yeah.
We also mentioned that that players can get lost down in the underground. And I was actually reading today like about some other games like Far Cry 5 and State of Decay 2, how they have a tethered experience, which isn't even something I thought about recently in cooperative games. So I'm actually curious, like, how screwed can someone be in your game if they get lost and can't find their teammates?
Well, I think you're always going to be able to see your teammates through walls. So you see these outlines, so you know where in which direction to head. We don't want to. If a player strays away from the group, we actually want to give the players, make it easy for people to find their way back, because that's the way the game is intended to be played. And one or several characters in the group, one or several players in the group might have some sort of a area buff or something. So if you're close to that player, then you get something, or you're protected from something. Or it might be tied to an objective. Someone might have picked up something in the environment that actually does something, and you want to be there. And it's just frustrating if people can't find their way back to the group. I think it's more interesting to make it difficult for people to find the objective and have to look for clues. And we have these generated area codes. Area codes is the wrong word because it sounds like you're in some sort of a suburb, like a community. But it's like different parts of the level get different numbers and letter combinations, and then you can actually read on the doors that this door will lead you to this area. So everyone is looking around and looking into the environment for clues of where to go, because you might know the name of that zone, but you don't know, you can't look at a map and find out exactly how to find your way there. So I think that's more interesting than making it difficult for people who have accidentally gotten away from the group and want to find their way back.
Cool. So what are you most excited about then for GTFO?
Well, I'm super excited for the characters and the voice acting and the very advanced and complex dialogue system that we have, and see how people react to the characters. Obviously, people are not going to notice how much work and thought and how complex the system is, and how much work and thought has gone into that. But if people just enjoy the experience of being down there and spending time with these characters and finding them interesting, they're not gonna. It's like with this. It's the same with music. If people don't notice it, then you've done your job. Sort of. It's supposed to be subtle. So that I'm super excited for that, and I think that that will sort of highlight that aspect missing from a lot of other games where the characters only talk about gameplay related functionalities, like their health or their the ammo levels or something like that. But obviously, since I work with music, I'm really excited to actually be able to do a horror soundtrack for the first time in my 18-year career. So that's super interesting, because obviously a creepy atmosphere relies heavily on the sound design and all these unnerving and uncomfortable noises and sounds and soundscapes and creepy music. So a lot of thought is put into that as well, to make the music sort of unpredictable and interesting at all times as well.
So after this interview, when is the next time we should see or hear about GTFO?
we may or may not have something for E3. At least we're keeping E3 as an internal deadline, so that we keep working on the game and have something to work towards. But I can't confirm now that something will happen there. It's tricky, we're a team of 9 people, and keeping game development at a steady pace, and also try to maintain the sort of interest or even hype. It's really difficult, and we're not done with the game yet. So what I would want to talk about though is the fact that we will want to test the game with actual players before we release it, because as we've learned from the post-mortem of the first Vermintide game, and we know the developers of Vermintide, we know them well, so we don't want to make the same mistake they did and not test the game enough. So there's going to be a beta or some sort of a testing phase in some shape or form. Right now we don't know whether it's if it's closed or invites only, or if it's open, and if people will be able to stream it and make YouTube videos about it and stuff. But in some shape or form, people are going to be able to try it out before it's released. That's the ambition, at least.
I don't think I would recommend any multiplayer developers at this point not testing out their game for release anymore, with how angry people get after day 1 patches. Yeah, absolutely. I get what you're saying, but there's so many aspects to GTFO that I haven't even talked about here. How the game is sort of played from day to day or from week to week. So there's a different, there are things there that we need to test as well. And it's going to be super interesting to see how that's, how people receive that. So is GTFO still expected to come out this year, and it's coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, right?
It's coming out this year, yes. But right now it's PC only.
Oh, right.
Because and we're the team is. I play on PC. I play on PlayStation 4 as well, and I've owned several. I was an Xbox owner last generation. So yeah, we're we're console gamers as well. And we would love to release the game on consoles, even Switch if the opportunity would arise. But we are a team of 9, so we have to focus our efforts. So obviously we're gonna try to get the PC version out the door first, and then we'll see.
And then
nothing is ruled out.
Sure. And the last question is there a long-term plan for GTFO? Maybe not games as a service, but continuing to support it long after release kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There is some sort of games as a service philosophy behind the game as a whole. So we can get into that, I think, when we get closer to the release or the testing phase, what it's going to be like. But yeah, it's a game that we intend to offer people, hundreds and hundreds of hours of entertainment with. So, and it's not going to be hundreds and hundreds of hours of a story campaign. It's going to be through other means, sort of interesting things for people to hunt for, and new challenges being introduced, every once in a while. So yes,
cool. All right. Well, I think that's all I need from you. So thank you for speaking with me about GTFO, Simon, and I'm looking forward to hopefully trying out the game soon.
Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to having you play it.
Love horror games, love co-op games, so definitely it's on my radar, I'll tell you that much.
Match made in heaven.
Well, more like hell, you're going underground there.